Topic is Women in Aerospace and Engineering, exploring the challenges and opportunities for women in STEM fields. We have many accomplished women in their respective fields testifying before us today. This is very exciting for me to get to hear. I've been interested in aviation for a long time. My father was a pilot, and my husband's a pilot, and I'm sort of a not current pilot. And I've always admired women who went into this field, both in engineering, aerospace, and certainly astronauts. Very exciting. There are representatives of the aerospace industry, national laboratories and research centers, academia and professional societies, and we've asked them here to talk about their personal stories, including the challenges they have faced while getting to where they are, so we can have examples for all those who will follow. We've also asked them to talk about the opportunities, those programs or mentors they encountered, either through their academic or professional career, that encouraged them or inspired them to become the distinguished professionals that they are now. Our first panel will consist of women in the aerospace industry. Please welcome, and I'll go through 4 names and then we'll applaud. Julie Van Kleck, Aerojet Rocketdyne, Lieutenant Colonel Kelly Latimer, Virgin Galactic, Madeline Salazar, Boeing Satellite Systems, Kelly Jill Tornquist Hennig, Northrop Grumman. Let's give them a big hand. And with that, if we can start with Julie Van Kleck.
Senator Fuller, Assemblymember O'Donnell, members of the Assembly Select Committee on Aerospace and Senate Select Committee on Defense and Aerospace. My name is Julie Van Kleck, and I'm the Vice President of Advanced Space and Launch Programs at Aerojet Rocketdyne. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today regarding my support for STEM and talking about the personal story and how to maybe improve things in our country here relative to STEM. I'm proud to be a longtime Californian. I have lived here since I was 5 years old. I was raised in South Lake Tahoe, and I'm the product of California public schools, both elementary, secondary, as well as college. I work for a California headquartered company here. We have 3,000 employees between our LA and Sacramento sites. I graduated from the University of California, Davis with degrees in mechanical and aeronautical engineering. And at Aerojet Rocketdyne, I'm responsible for space and launch propulsion, particularly developing new products and pushing technologies for putting into our new rocket propulsion so that we can go further than anyone's ever gone before. Aerojet Rocketdyne is a pretty neat company. We've been responsible for providing propulsion that launches both satellites as well as humans. We're proud to have launched every human that's been launched from U.S. soil into space, and we hope to keep doing that for quite a while to come. We also support our civil programs, national defense programs, and are doing a number of very exciting things relative to new developments. In my group, we're working on the new Space Launch System and the Orion program that's going to be taking people deeper into space than we've ever gone before, and hopefully Mars in the 2030s. We're also developing propulsion and power systems for the Commercial Crew Program that will be taking our astronauts commercially through the ISS through 2024. And we're also developing the U.S.'s next-generation rocket engine, the AR-1, that will end our reliance on Russian rocket engines. In the technology arena, we're advancing in the state-of-the-art, many fronts of the state-of-the-art, including additive manufacturing. We're actually printing whole rocket engines and have been test-firing them and hope to launch them on the Orion system. We're also working non-toxic propellants that'll make for safer systems in the future, and nuclear propulsion for shorter trip times for our astronauts. And so we've been a pretty major contributor to the U.S., not just in product, but also in advancing science. Our propulsion sent spacecraft to every planet in the solar system, and actually we're beyond the solar system now with one that we launched in the 70s. And most recently, we're proud of our encounter with Pluto last summer, where our propulsion actually stopped the spinning of the spacecraft so we could take some of those wonderful pictures and collect the science that we collected then. In addition, Aerojet, through Aerojet Rocketdyne Foundation, has been a critical supporter of STEM in the region and across the country, and I'll go through some of that later in my comments. But now I'll talk to you about how I got into this. Okay, I grew up in the 60s and 70s in the small mountain community of Lake Tahoe in a single-parent household. The oldest of 5 children, lived with a mother and grandparents. No one in my extended family had ever gone to college. Girls are expected to basically get married and have kids, which I do have, okay. And I love having kids too, so I was an unusual girl in my family, but very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I was very good at math and science, and I figured that out at a pretty young age. From the age of 5, I started playing with math logic puzzles and basically math problems in my spare time, which was kind of odd. And this wasn't encouraged at home, but I was very fortunate to have a number of public school teachers that helped foster my capabilities and provide me opportunities. And that was throughout elementary, middle school, and high school. And without that, I don't know that I could have got to where I've got to today. I was the only girl on our school's math team and in the advanced math classes that we had. And this was a little tough socially, but we also learned valuable lessons during those times in terms of tolerance as well as perseverance and keeping at things. My love of math and science and an early interest in science fiction actually gave me a dream. I wanted to learn more about the solar system, the universe, and hopefully to go to the stars one day. I don't think I'm going to quite get there, but I certainly feel like I'm contributing to getting close. With the support of many of my high school teachers, I did become an amateur astronomer, and I joined the adults in the community in astrophotography nights, taking pictures of stars. I wanted to go away to school and study astrophysics, but I was pretty young when I went away and was not allowed to go that far from home. So at the age of 16, I entered UC Davis, and I started on a dual degree of chemistry and physics. That was because UC Davis didn't have an astronomy program at the time. They only had 2 classes. My plan was to later move on to another school. I had picked out Caltech or Berkeley to go study astrophysics. But my plans changed during my summer job. I worked for the California Water Quality Control Board, Lahontan region up in Lake Tahoe as a summer engineering aide. And my boss there told me that, if you get a job in astrophysics, you're not going to have, well, one, you may not have a job because there aren't a lot of jobs in astrophysics, but, you probably be working at nights and you won't like that either. So I said, okay. He said, you should become an engineer instead, because with being an engineer, you can still do math and science and you can have your astronomy as your hobby. So basically, given my desire to break away from a working class background, I took his advice and got double degrees in mechanical and aeronautical engineering at Davis. I figured that would keep me close to space, at least with the aeronautical side. I entered the workforce as an Aerojet rocket systems engineer in the early 80s, and it was early in my first year that I came face to face with the reality of working in a male-dominated industry. Many times early in my career, I was not allowed to actually be on a product team or participate in certain systems development solely because I was a woman. That had never been a problem for me while I was going to school. Most of my peers were very accepting of that, but at Aerojet Rocketdyne at the time, we still had some of the original German scientists at the company, and they were not accustomed to having women in the workforce. And so they actually asked to have me removed from several teams. That was, that was a pretty tough lesson, but it taught me that I have to, really prove myself and earn my way onto things, which I have a lot of perseverance, so I did that. It gave me a lot of good lessons for basically being in this industry for the past 30 years. Later, my challenges shifted to some that are familiar with many women today, and that is how to work full-time and raise a family. I have 3 children within 5 years, and I basically took off maternity leave when required, but kept my job the whole time. And it was at that time, and I think hopefully it's better today, and as my girls go through school, it'd be better today, but back then, my male counterparts would be very sensitive to me taking time off to either go be with the kids or if I was pregnant. So it definitely raised my awareness as to some of those challenges. What I did is I tried to minimize my differences during those times and to overkill on my performance during those particular years. I actually maybe I was a little too committed. I actually had one of my children on a business trip, so, he came a little early, he's 5 weeks early, but he was a surprise, and he came in, he was born in Delaware. So anyway, I was pretty committed. It was during this busy life, and I was pretty tired most of the time, but I'm real proud that my 3 kids have all turned out to be just fantastic adults. All 3 of them are college educated, and my youngest is actually getting her master's degree at Stanford in engineering, my one engineer. So I've been blessed with a great career and have been learning continuously throughout it. A key thing beyond the technical things, because I absolutely love working on rockets, is I've learned the value of true diversity in thought. We have more women now in the company than we had when I started, but as I've become a senior manager, what's really hit home to me was the value of having people who think differently, working on technical problems. Women often, and I can say this probably because I am a woman, is a lot of times women will approach a problem differently than a man. My husband's an engineer. When he and I work on things, we come at it from 2 totally different ways, and maybe it's just 2 individuals, maybe it's because of a male and a female. We usually end up at the right solution, usually. Not always the same, but it's interesting to see those differences, and I notice it in the workforce. I notice when I have women and men on teams together that usually the product, it might take a little longer to get to the outcome, but the product is usually a pretty sound product. So I really like to encourage that type of diversity within my organization these days. Now, a few comments on STEM. I'm not an educator. As I've mentioned, I didn't need a lot of encouragement to be in math and science because I loved it so much, but many young people do today. And I know we're not getting enough of, people in these fields as well as enough women in these fields. I think the demographics are better now, but they're still not where I'd like them to be. And so, you ask yourself the question, are we approaching teaching the right way? Does everybody need teaching that use the same methodologies? I would say I probably learn differently than my husband learns. And so is that something that we need to look at? Are we starting soon enough? People say, you got to get them in middle school. And I'm saying you got to get them when they're in preschool, because that's where you start setting, the way people think. And I saw it with my own kids. It's just real easy to go down a certain path at a very, very young age. Are we explaining the practical applications and benefits of a STEM education to kids at a young age? A lot of times it's just scary, but I think there's ways to get them in, but also to start telling them at a young age the real values of STEM education. So, I'm an engineer. I think in some ways we should do a root, analysis of what is the root cause here and look at this in a pretty methodical way. Maybe that's being done, but I know in any time you look at when you have a problem, I like approaching it from the core, looking for the core root causes and trying to attack those. Even though we may not know all the reasons, I'm very proud of the fact that Aerojet Rocketdyne and me as an individual, we're all trying to work to support the type of activities that will improve this situation. Aerojet Rocketdyne and its foundation support numerous educational programs with an emphasis on STEM. We do that. We need engineers. We need sharp engineers to be able to develop those next rocket systems in the for the United States. So we try to work at this at a very young age and try to encourage kids and keep them there so they'll come to work for us and provide value. Our foundation distributes funds through grants, scholarships, and gifts, matching a number of programs in California and across the nation. It's a long relationship with Project Lead the Way, a national middle and high school engineering program encouraging career exploration in the engineering disciplines. We also have a partnership with Science Buddies, an online STEM resource and career exploration site. And I'm proud of the foundation's support of the Challenger Center for the Space Science Education and Local Challenger Center in California and Sacramento and Downey, California. The Aerojet Rocketdyne Foundation also has a long relationship with several of the universities and have programs in aerospace and propulsion engineering included at the University of California, Davis, California State University, Northridge, and Sacramento State University. And we also sponsor a number of employee programs, including Aerojet Foundation Educational Gift Matching Program and Scholarship Program. And this is a tremendous way to provide resources to those who want to pursue these type of fields. A lot more can be done, but, I can't overemphasize the value of good public school teachers, from beginning all the way through. And then, you know, also of many companies who are supporting the STEM education. So thank you for the opportunity for me to tell you a little bit about my job, the job that I love, and to express some of my thoughts in STEM education.
Thank you. That was just fabulous insight, especially, you know, I was a school teacher and a school superintendent for a long, long time, so it's very exciting to hear what motivated you and what we can continue to do to improve it. I'd like to take just a moment before we go on to our next panelist to introduce my vice chair on the Senate Select Committee on Defense and Aerospace, Senator Allen. Give him just a minute to say hi. I couldn't do this without him. We've had really a great partnership in starting this together, and so I'd like to give him a minute.
Well, thank you so much, Senator. And I was communicating with the Chair O'Donnell from the Assembly Side Committee, and he sends his regrets. He unfortunately got called home to his district, so he won't be able to be here. But I just want to say how exciting it is to have this hearing, to have welcomed you to the Senate floor, and to also welcome all the folks who are here for Aerospace Days. There's going to be some really exciting events happening over the next couple of days. Lots to learn about this extraordinarily important industry, which is just such a critical part of the California economy and so closely tied to our commitment to innovation. And I just wanted to give a little announcement to the members of this committee and those in the audience that I'm going to be putting forward a bill to establish a California Aerospace Commission that will, you know, act as a clearinghouse and point of contact for aerospace-related issues and identify and recommend changes in state law and policies that enhance the development of aerospace-related activities throughout California. And I'm very committed to working with Senator Fuller and Senator Runner as well on that. So I'm just excited to have you here. I'm also, as a former school board member, where we worked a lot on trying to work with our young women who were studying and interested in STEM in our school district. Just so excited to have this celebration of women in STEM. And we have so far to go. And yet, I think, Julie, you articulated the issues really, really well. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some great ideas coming out of this hearing to help keep the ball rolling, so we have extraordinary young women moving into this very important field. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have several other pilots up here, but we want to use our time with you today while we have you. So Lieutenant Colonel Kelly Latimer, Virgin Galactic. And I got to be at the rollout the other day, so I'm still excited about all my pictures. What an amazing mothership and unity. So thank you.
All right, so Senator Fuller, Assembly Member O'Donnell, members of the Assembly Select Committee on Aerospace and Senate Select Committee on Defense and Aerospace. Thank you for having me here also today to talk about the important issue of women in aerospace and engineering. So my personal story got started from that childhood dream of wanting to be an astronaut. So I echo those comments of, you know, like inspiring young. I don't even know what did it or what motivated me. I just, as long as I can ever remember wanting to do anything, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go in space. I watched rocket launches, you know, men on the moon, and I never really gave a thought to, can a woman do it or not? I just assumed, well, of course, there just hasn't been one yet, but I mean, you know, a woman can do it. So I was very serious about it, though. So about 8th grade, I went to the library, back before Google and, you know, Wikipedia, where you had to get on your bike, ride to the library, and check out the encyclopedia. Started looking up astronauts and looked up, you know, what were they, who were they, what did they do? Well, they were all military test pilots. So I didn't know much about airplanes, pilots, or the military, but I figured I could figure it out. So military test pilot, that's what I got to do. And I kind of charted my course from there on how I needed to go through and get it. So my first step was, you know, go to one of the service academies. So I went to the Air Force Academy, got a bachelor's in astronautical engineering. And then I was lucky enough to get a scholarship out of that. So I went and got a master's right away in astronautics from George Washington University. And then went on to pilot training, and then spent about 6 years as a high-performance jet instructor, and then flying, you know, a large transport cargo aircraft all around the world for about 4 years, and then finally got my shot to go to test pilot school. So I was like, yes, almost there, on my way to astronauthood. So went to test pilot school, graduated in '97. Spent a few years test flying, spent some time on the staff at test pilot school as an instructor. And I actually did the astronaut interview, although unfortunately I didn't pass the medical. So it's, you know, all that work and effort put into it. But in the end, it's not a sad story. It's a great story, because if I hadn't pursued that dream wholeheartedly, you know, I never would have done all those things I did. I mean, they were all in pursuit of that. I didn't get there, but here it left me with, you know, this great 15 years of engineering and test flying experience, and it set the base for me to, you know, go do other things from there. So I got to be a flying test flight squadron commander at Edwards. I got to go be a test pilot for NASA for a little bit. I spent about 8 years test flying for Boeing, and then out of the blue, I'm now with Virgin Galactic, and so the dream still lives with that shot to actually get in space and take a whole bunch of other people with me. So things come around you don't expect. But that was the path that I took. And when I look back on it, I think the things that were challenges or things that helped me, I think I came along at a time, if I had been like just maybe 2 years older when I went to read that encyclopedia, that whole thing I laid out wouldn't have been possible because women couldn't go to the academy, they couldn't be, so I was kind of at that thing where it just was possible, but there was also a whole, like a 10 years worth of women ahead of me that went there. So when I came through pilot training or went through test pilot school, all the men that I went there with and that were the instructors had women as instructors, so it wasn't something new. So for me, it was just a matter of going through the course. But the challenge was that there were so few women. The field had been open for a while, but there were so few women, in military flying and in engineering. So it just seemed like I was always the only woman in my course, the only woman in my, training class. And there can actually be a lot of pressure on that because you feel like you're being watched, you're being looked at. So you feel that pressure. You walk into the room and it's all, other male pilots and you, and it's kind of intimidating. So I think for young women, just getting into a field that's male-dominated, there's a lot of pressure and intimidation on that. And it helps, to have a role model or other people. So for me, what helped was I was always supported by friends and family. My coworkers, my superiors, everybody helped me out. No one ever said you can't do it, you shouldn't do it. They were all with me on how do I get to the next step. But I think the most important thing, or the one that reinforced most to me that I could do what I wanted to do, was seeing the women ahead of me that were successful. So it's one thing to say, oh, it's possible, the field is open, you can do it. It's another to see Sally Ride go into space, see Jackie Parker graduate test pilot school, see Eileen Collins be a shuttle commander. I mean, at that point, to me, it becomes real, and it's tangible, and it's not just the possibility out there. And I think that, the STEM workforce is very important to our industrial base, to our competitiveness, and it's surprising that even after all these years of these fields being open to women, that it's only about 24% of women, in the STEM field, which is surprising to me. So you look at, like, how do you turn that around, or how do you change that flavor, or change the background of that? And at Virgin Galactic, they have a couple programs. So one of them, they have Galactic Unite. So it's a collaborative program between our company, the community of our future astronaut customers, and also Sir Richard Branson's foundation, Virgin Unite. And it looks to encourage STEM activities, particularly among women. One of their core benefits is they give out grants and scholarships. So since 2012, we've given out 30, and 20 of those went to women. And one of our most recent recipients, she won it was the Galactic Unite Flying Tigresses Scholarship, and it was basically sponsored by, we had a flying team that they were the Team Flying Tigresses, and they entered the 2015 Air Race Classic, which is based off of the 1929 Women's Air Derby. But they raised money, gave this scholarship, and so this young lady, Jennifer Merkel, is going to graduate University of Buffalo this coming spring with a dual degree, civil and aerospace engineering, which is pretty awesome. But she's going to get all of her flight school paid for, and not only flight school, but also get tied into mentors within the company and within Galactic Unite. And I think, so that's part of, helping women along financially and stuff and giving mentors. But I think the other big piece, and this is what Julie said, was inspiring kids at a young age. And that's why I just recently started with Virgin Galactic, but I'm so excited about it because between Spaceship 2 and Launcher 1, our goal is to change how you access space. The goal is to make access to space available for a much wider group of people, and to be able to bring in young kids that could have their own experiment, their own payload, and put it on a Spaceship 2 or a Launcher 1 and have that tangible experience. And suddenly, science and engineering is cool again, and it's interesting, and it's fascinating, and it actually makes a difference. So that's one of the things, just not even just women, but young people in general, to get them interested in STEM career fields, that I hope Virgin Galactic is successful, because I think it'll be probably one of the best outreach programs of all, is to actually make space tangible. We recently rolled out Spaceship 2, as you mentioned, in our Mojave base earlier this month. It was a big event, very exciting for us, so we should get back to flying, which is good. But I wanted to play a video that we played during the rollout.
My superpower is to speak for girls in a voice so loud that the whole world will listen. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. I'm so excited for the unveiling of the spacecraft. It's such a great work, and it's a way that we are inspiring young people in this whole world to explore more, to go further, and to have no boundaries. I'm really thankful to all women who have contributed in these projects. Their role, their support is needed. Women are half of the population, and we cannot achieve success if half of the population is held back. So women need to come forward. They need to participate actively. And I would ask more girls to step forward to this field of engineering and science. And I'm really thankful to Sir Richard and as well as the Virgin Galactic for this great project, but also for their contribution of announcing STEM scholarships. This is going to help more and more young people to get inspired and join science and engineering and these fields to believe that their role is important for these fields to go forward. Was it a bit slow?
All right, thank you.